Good evening. Today is Wednesday, May 6th, 2026, and I'm calling to order the regular City Commission meeting. It is about 7:14 or so. May we have the roll call, please, Mr. Wiley?
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
He's on his way.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Present. For those who are able, if you can, please rise and join me in the flag salute, or join us in the flag salute, please. Rocky, why don't you start it off?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So as you've noticed, we have a number of proclamations and items on our agenda, and I'd first like to call on Commissioner Morrow. He has a very special walk-on proclamation that he would like to read.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So when I was at the League of Oregon Cities conference, staff presented me with this resolution that was passed by the Board of Directors. And for those who are unaware, the League of Oregon Cities is an organization made up of Oregon's 241 cities, and it advocates for us at the state and federal level. And it also provides professional development, trainings, all sorts of great resources for us as a local government. And last year was their 100th year in operation. And so this is recognizing the City of Oregon City as one of the founding members of the League of Oregon Cities. So League of Oregon Cities Resolution 2516, a resolution of the League of Oregon Cities recognizing and commemorating the partnership between the City of Oregon City and the LOC, as the LOC commemorates 100 years of service and Oregon City's role in the creation of and continued support of the LOC. Whereas the League of Oregon Cities was founded in 1925 by agreement of Albany, Astoria, Baker, Beaverton, Cottage Grove, Drain, Eugene, Forest Grove, Gold Hill, Gresham, Hillsborough, Marshfield, Milwaukee, Oregon City, Portland, Prineville, St. Helens, Salem, Scappoose, Silverton, Toledo, Troutdale, Tualatin, Warrenton, and Yamhill. And whereas the Oregon Constitution creates the right for cities to self-regulate, create their own form of government via a charter, have local decision-making control, and govern public health, safety, and welfare with the right to license and tax. And whereas the League of Oregon Cities is celebrating its centennial anniversary by acknowledging the involvement of its founding members, while also recognizing each city's accomplishments throughout the last century. And whereas in 1925, representatives from the above 25 Oregon cities met to consider a number of issues, including a proposal for a state constitutional amendment that would guarantee to Oregon cities the full control of their own affairs and insulate their home rule powers from legislative interference. And whereas on January 25th, 1925, the League of Oregon Cities was formed, and the 25 cities agreed to form a new organization in which each member would have one vote and would pay annual dues for the support of the organization. And whereas the League of Oregon Cities is best characterized as a governmental agency created by Oregon's cities to provide those cities with governmental services, including advocacy, professional development, necessary resources, and networking opportunities. And whereas the City of Oregon City is a strong partner of the LOC, an exemplary city within the state of Oregon, and worthy of recognition and appreciation by the LOC Board of Directors, now therefore the Board of Directors of the League of Oregon Cities resolves as follows. Section 1 recognizes the City of Oregon City as an extraordinary city within the state of Oregon. A, recognizes Oregon City was established in 1829 by the Hudson's Bay Company and was incorporated December 24th, 1844, becoming the first incorporated city west of the Rocky Mountains. B, recognizes Oregon City has a home rule charter and commissioner-manager form of government. C, recognizes Oregon City is located in Clackamas County, sits on the confluence of the Clackamas and Willamette Rivers, and serves as the county seat. D, recognizes Oregon City is designated as an Oregon Heritage All-Star Community by the Oregon Heritage Commission. E, recognizes that Oregon City is home to a municipal elevator originally built in 1915 and rebuilt in 1954 and added to the National Register of Historic Places in 2014. Section 2 recognizes the City of Oregon City as an exemplary partner and supporter of the League of Oregon Cities. A, recognizes the importance of the City of Oregon City being one of the League of Oregon Cities founding member cities. B, recognizes the following Oregon City officials who served as LOC president: City Attorney Chris Schulbull, 1928 to 1930, and City Manager J.L. Frazen, 1940 to 1941. C, recognizes that representatives of the City of Oregon City have continuously been actively engaged in LOC initiatives and programs, working collaboratively with the LOC to ensure that all Oregonians live in thriving communities that are equitable, healthy, and safe. And lastly, D, recognizes that the City of Oregon City has been and continues to be a strong and reliable partner of the LOC, serving not just its own residents and businesses, but also serving the residents and businesses across Oregon as it collaborates and advocates with all localities in the best interests of all Oregonians, enacted on December 12th, 2025 by the LOC Board of Directors. And this was an organization that I had the privilege of also serving on the board of directors for, and so we are very grateful to have this honor.
Thank you for reading that, and Commissioner Smith and I will make a few corrections. We are the first incorporated city west of the Missouri River. We were incorporated officially on December 24th, 1844. We were established in 1829 by Dr. John McLaughlin. He had not filed his plat just yet, but he staked a claim on behalf of himself and at our location at the head of the falls. So we can't blame them for making a couple of corrections. Thank you so much for that. It'll be great. We'll be hanging that up somewhere in City Hall as a charter city. And as I like to remind people when I introduce myself, as I say, I'm Denise McGriff. I am the privilege of being the mayor of the first incorporated city in the state of Oregon. So I'm going to skip over item 3A. I'm going to wait till Commissioner Wilson gets here because I'd like him to read that. So we're going to go directly to item 3B, which is the Fourth Proclamation. And I'd like to call up, I'm going to read this in front of everybody, call up Wing Commander Williams. And I will also come up. Do we need a microphone? Yes, I do have one. Purchased from a local company right here in Oregon City.
Good evening, Jedi Mayor McGriff, members of the Galactic Senate. My name is Wing Commander Greg Williams, and I lead the X-Wing Squadron, which patrols Sector 606 of the OC system. Recently, we received intelligence of an impending imperial incursion of the Jedi Library. We were a little worried that the Imperials this year might finally do us in, but we sent out the call to all the inhabitants of Sector 606, and I am very proud and pleased to say they heeded our call for assistance. We had between 700 and 800 inhabitants of our sector come and rally to the defense of the Jedi Library. We turned back the Imperial troopers, the scout troopers. They even turned back Lord Vader when he made his appearance. So I am very grateful to everybody in the community who came out and supported the Jedi Library. I want to give special thanks to our sector administrators, Troutman and Conkle, who also came and helped in the defense of the Jedi Library. You may not know, the Jedi Library has recently become a depository for Old Republic credits. So with the Imperial incursion, we decided it was safe to, it was probably a good idea to move those credits around different places. So each of you has, you are now entrusted with an Old Republic credit to safeguard against future incursions of Imperial forces. So with that, if there are any questions about the event, I'm happy to answer them.
Are there any questions of Commander Williams? He's been promoted, by the way. So, I'm going to turn this on. So, this is.
All right.
I just had it tuned up at Cyberforce.
Oh, and if I may, I must also recognize some incredible assistance we had. Our lightsabers for several of our young Jedis were provided by the Master Saber Forgers of Saberforge within Sector 606. We were able to construct some droids and some starships out of the material called Lego, which you may be familiar with. That endeavor was supported by True Busy Toys and Yellow Castle Bricks, so we're very grateful to them. And I also have to thank the Friends of the Jedi Library for their support in defending the library against Imperial. So thank you to all those participants and everybody who made our defense so memorable.
So if you're a Star Wars fan, you'll know what the purple means. All right, so our resolution tonight is Let's see if I can do this. I don't know if I can hold it at the same time and read. So whereas, oh, thank you. He's guarding me while he's doing it. Okay. So whereas both end spies recently alerted the Jedi Library in Sector 606 about an imminent invasion by the forces of the dark side, and whereas the archivist? I thought it was activist. Archivists at the Jedi Library sent out a call for help for all luminous beings of the OC system, and whereas word of the Jedi Library's impending peril spread throughout the galaxy, from the swamps of Dagobah to Mos Eisley Spaceport, to the forest moon of Endor, to Cloud City in Bespin, and whereas the residents of the OC system craved not adventure and excitement, but bravely rallied to the Jedi Library's defense, never succumbing to fear, for fear is the path of the dark side. And whereas the residents of the OC system trusted in the Force to defeat the Empire, for rebellions are built on hope, and all is as the Force wills it. Now, therefore, I, Denise McGriff, Mayor of the OC System, do hereby commemorate May 4th, 2026 as Star Wars Day, and thank all the residents of the OC System who resisted and turned back the forces of the Empire at the Battle of the Jedi Library. For our ally is the Force, and the powerful ally it is. And I will sign this today on the 6th of May, 2026. Therefore, there is no try. Williams. Glad you got here in time for that.
Oh, I am too.
You guys can play with it later if you want. All right. Thank you. So, Commissioner Wilson, are you ready to read Mental Health Awareness Month?
I would be happy to. As a social worker and therapist, this topic is very near and dear to my heart. Whereas mental health is part of everyone's overall health and well-being, and mental illnesses are prevalent in our county, state, and nation, with 1 in 5 adults experiencing a mental health issue every year. And whereas stigma and the resulting discrimination is a primary obstacle to early identification and effective treatment of individuals with mental illness and their ability to recover to lead full, productive lives. And whereas approximately half of chronic mental illness begins by the age of 14, and suicide is the second leading cause of death of individuals ages 10 to 14 and 25 to 34. And whereas long delays averaging 11 years occur between the time symptoms first appear and when individuals get help, and it is therefore essential to cure the stigma and discrimination that is the primary cause for those delays. And whereas every citizen and community can make a difference in helping cure the stigma and discrimination that for too long has surrounded mental illness and discouraged people from getting help. And whereas public education and civic engagement improves the lives of individuals and families affected by mental illness.
Now, therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, hereby proclaim May 2026 as Mental Health Awareness Month, in order to increase public understanding of the importance of mental health, to promote identification and timely treatment of mental illness, and to cure the resulting stigma and discrimination. I will sign this proclamation on the 6th day of May, 2026. So next we have National Public Works Week proclamation. Whereas since 1960, the third week of May has been designated as American Public Works Association, APWA, as National Public Works Week, a nationwide public education campaign that recognizes and celebrates the tens of thousands of public works professionals who play a direct and vital role in improving the quality of life in communities across the nation. And whereas this week highlights the public works professionals, including engineers, managers, administrative staff, and employees at all levels of government and in the private sector, who are responsible for protecting and enhancing our nation's infrastructure by planning, building, managing, and maintaining public buildings and spaces, emergency management systems, solid waste services, water treatment facilities, safe roadways, and rights-of-ways services, all of which are essential to safe, sustainable, and resilient communities, including for the people of the City of Oregon City. And whereas this year marks the 66th annual National Public Works Week, and with this year's theme, Rooted in Service, Powered by Community, acknowledging that the roots of the service runs deep in public works, and it is what has propelled public works innovations that have helped our communities evolve into places where people can lead lives of purpose and possibilities. Whereas some work, like building roads and bridges, is highly visible, while other public works contributions, like maintaining water and sewer systems, are sometimes hidden from view. Together, these efforts form the foundation of thriving communities, reminding us that every project, seen or unseen, powers the connection between service and the people it supports. Whereas it is in the public interest for the residents, civic leaders, and the youth of Oregon City to gain knowledge of and maintain ongoing understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. Now, therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, do hereby proclaim May 17th through 23rd, 2026 as National Public Works Week, and urge all residents to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and governmental agencies to honor and thank our public works employees for their professionalism, hard work, and high level of dedicated service to our community, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make in protecting our national health, safety, and quality of life for all. And I will sign this today on the 6th of May. And want to add to those folks that help keep our communities is our South Fork Water Board staff, who help maintain our fabulous drinking water. Rocky?
Next is a proclamation for Police Week and Peace Officers Memorial Day. Whereas in 1962, President John F. Kennedy signed a proclamation which designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which that date falls as Police Week. And whereas there are approximately 800,000 law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Oregon City Police Department. And whereas since the first recorded death in 1791, more than 24,000 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and died or have been killed in the line of duty, including two of our own officers, Officer George J. Hanlon and Officer Robert Libke. And whereas the members of the Oregon City Police Department play an essential role in the safeguarding of the rights and freedoms which we have been guaranteed by the Constitution to every American citizen, and whereas it is important that people throughout our country know and understand the problems, duties, and responsibilities of their police departments, and that members of our law enforcement agencies recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence or disorder, and protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the Oregon City Police Department has grown to be a modern and scientific law enforcement agency which unceasingly provides a vital public service.
Now therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, along with the City Commission, hereby call upon the people of Oregon City to observe the week of May 10th through 16th, 2026, as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join together in commemorating police officers, both past and present, and our puppy dogs, and who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an inevitable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon the people of Oregon City to observe Friday, May 15th, 2026 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in honor of those peace officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of their duties. These officers that have been lost but will never be forgotten. This community will forever be grateful. We ask for a moment of silence as we remember Oregon City's valuable public servants and pray for the healing and hope for the future. I will sign this today on May 6th. May we have one moment of silence, please. And just want to make a note for the record for after item F, 3F, we have a presentation by the Executive Director of NAMI. So not at the end of item F. So next, we're commemorating so many things in May, and we have a few more proclamations coming up at our next meeting as well. So it's also National Historic Preservation Month. That is celebrated every year in May. And whereas historic preservation is an effective tool for promoting building reuse, sustainability, revitalizing neighborhoods, and fostering local pride and enhancing livability. And whereas historic preservation is relevant for communities across the nation, both urban and rural, for all Americans of all ages, all walks of life, and all ethnic backgrounds. And whereas historic preservation in the United States is undergoing a significant shift, moving from its traditional focus on stately historic homes towards a more inclusive approach to a wider range of cultural, social, and economic histories. And whereas as the United States marks its 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, help us celebrate the historic sites, neighborhoods, and landmarks that tell the full American story, places that remind us how far we have come and how far we still have to go. Therefore, I, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, do proclaim May 2026 as National Historic Preservation Month and call upon the people of Oregon City to join their fellow citizens across the United States in recognizing and participating in this special observance. And as I said before, we are number one, and we are probably one of the most historic cities in this state. So now we'll go to Water Safety Month.
This is a proclamation for Water Safety Month in May and International Water Safety Day, May 15th. Whereas the City of Oregon City recognizes the vital role that swimming and aquatic-related activities contribute to good physical and mental health and enhance the quality of life for all people. And whereas the City of Oregon City recognizes the vital importance of water as a valuable resource and acknowledges the inherent risks associated with aquatic environments. And whereas every citizen deserves the opportunity to enjoy water-related activities safely, whether swimming, boating, or simply being near bodies of water. And whereas the month of May presents an opportune time to heighten awareness of water safety, as warmer weather often leads to increased recreational water activities. And whereas nationally an estimated 11 people die each day from unintentional drowning, and drowning is the second leading cause of death among children's ages 1 to 14. And whereas promoting responsible aquatic practices and equipping individuals with the necessary knowledge and skills can significantly reduce the incidence of drowning and other water-related incidents. And whereas by fostering a culture of water safety, we reaffirm our commitment to protecting the lives and well-being of our citizens, especially our youth, who are particularly vulnerable to water hazards. And whereas the City of Oregon City is dedicated to collaborating with local organizations, schools, and community members to implement effective water safety initiatives and programs. And whereas by declaring May as Water Safety Month, we pledge to prioritize water safety awareness and education, empowering individuals to make informed decisions and take appropriate precautions when engaging in water activities.
And now I therefore, Denise C. McGriff, Mayor of the City of Oregon City, along with the City Commission, do hereby proclaim May 2026 as Water Safety Month and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to join in this observance. And may I also say for the record that our Parks and Recreation, the City of Oregon City through its Parks and Recreation Aquatic Department, basically read this statement, play an essential role in advancing water safety by providing swim lessons that build life-saving skills, offering lifeguard supervision at aquatic facilities, and promoting safety, messaging, and outreach initiatives. And so by us proclaiming this Water Safety Month, the city affirms its commitment to fostering a culture of safety, increasing awareness of water-related risks, and empowering residents with the knowledge and skills needed to enjoy aquatic environments responsibly. And I'd like to now take the pleasure of asking Dave Hunt to come forward. Thank you for being here, David, and thank you for helping us promote Mental Health Awareness Month.
Thank you, Will. For the record, I'm Dave Hunt. I have the privilege of not only being a resident of the Gaffney Lane neighborhood, but of serving as the executive director of NAMI Clackamas. We appreciate you recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month. Obviously, we try to focus on mental health throughout the year, but appreciate an extra focus in the month of May. I have just a few stats and some information about what's happening, what services are available. I should note that NAMI Clackamas has been around since 1978, and 100% of our services are free. Everything you're going to hear about today is available without any cost. I think one of the challenges that we face, you may have to advance this, Jacob, because I'm not seeing it go. There we go.
There you go.
One of the challenges we face is that there's such a huge gap between when people sense that maybe they might have some kind of a mental health challenge and when they actually do something about it. If you think about breaking your arm, there's not much of a time gap between when you actually, I mean, for guys, we probably wait a little too long, but it's days. It's not like it is with mental health where the average is 11 years between when someone suspects they may have a mental health condition and when they actually do something about it. So the more we can break the stigma, because that's the number one reason, there are a lack of therapists, that is true. There is a lack of adequate insurance, that is true. There's a lack of slots among the therapists that are out there that take the right insurance. So there are lots of gaps in the system, to be sure. But stigma is the number one reason that people don't do it. They don't want to recognize in themselves that they have a mental health condition, and therefore they don't do anything about it. And that just makes the situation worse. So that's why we offer all kinds of classes. We have our two most popular classes are our peer-to-peer class, which is taught by people with a mental health condition for other people with a mental health condition, and our family-to-family class, taught by family members for other family members. Those are both 8-week cohorts. Right now we have a peer-to-peer cohort going on online, and we have a family-to-family cohort that actually meets on Saturdays mornings in Oregon City for the next 8 weeks. But we're always taking signups for the next cohorts of those classes. We have a ton of support groups that are meeting online and in person, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. Some are open to all with a mental health condition or their family members. Some are focused on serving specific constituencies. But all of these are accessible to all Clackamas County residents for free. We've made a real discernible different focus in the last 2 years by investing in the county jail. There's such a significant co-occurrence, as I'm sure the chief is aware, between the criminal justice system and mental health. And so we now have 3-day-a-week mental health classes inside the county jail for adults in custody, as well as a weekly support group for men who are in the jail. And starting next month, we'll have a weekly support group for women who are in the jail. We also have volunteers in the Clackamas County mental health courts every week providing resources to family members. And so that's been really well received both by the adults in custody and by law enforcement. And so that's been a real major focus. We also now have 3, and we will soon have 4 peer support specialists who are available to meet one-on-one for people who cannot find a trained therapist. This is often a bridge to therapy for people because we don't require any diagnosis or insurance or cost. And so our staff are available to help people walk through life one-on-one. They're not trained therapists, but they are trained peer support specialists. And we also have lots of presentations. So I'd say to all residents of Oregon City, if you're part of a neighborhood or a club or a faith community or whatever the group may be, we'd be happy to come out and make a presentation, not just in May, but anytime throughout the year about mental health and resources that are available. I'd like to say wherever there are 5 or more gathered, we were happy to come out. My pastor gives me a hard time. He thinks that should be where 2 or more are gathered. But last year, I think we did 75 presentations across the community. So we are very much focused on that education focus. Again, everything's 100% free. And that happens because we have fundraising events like the ones you see on the screen. Our next two coming ones, actually, our theater night is going to be in Oregon City on September 17th. The folks at Clackamas Repertory Theater actually, that's not the one up there. That one, June 25th, which is the first night of Laughter on the 23rd Floor, which is a Neil Simon comedy. Folks at Clackamas Rep have donated a whole block of tickets to NAMI, and so all the proceeds from the sales of those tickets will go to NAMI, which we really appreciate Clackamas Rep, and it's going to be a really fun show. It's not PG, I'd say it's at least PG-13 because it's framed around a comedy writer's room, so there's a little bit of language, Cindy has told us. And then we have our annual walk is actually May 16th, and then our big Party with a Purpose auction and fundraiser on Thursday, September 17th. So lots of opportunities to give, lots of opportunities to volunteer. We had 131 volunteers last year who taught and facilitated and did other things throughout the year. So we very much appreciate your partnership and your support and recognizing Mental Health Awareness Month in May. Please.
As Dave so aptly reminded us, there's lots of activities going on. There's lots of activities in Oregon City going on this month for Preservation Month, so check out our museums, the McLaughlin House, the Museum of the Oregon Territory, the Ermitinger House, the William Holmes House, all sorts of fun stuff going on celebrating National Historic Preservation Month. Next we have on our agenda, we have public comments. William, you have item 4 on your slip. Would you please come forward? If you want, you could be knighted also if you're ready for that.
I beg your pardon?
You could be knighted.
I could be knighted?
Mm-hmm. Were you here for the Star Wars proclamation?
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners and Mayor. I'm William Gifford. I live in Oregon City. As many of you know, my wife Joyce and I walk almost every day to the post office up Molalla, and we see a lot of things happen. But one of the things that we were noticing as we went by the place where the old pancake hut used to be in front of Fred Meyer's on Molalla there.
You mean Elmer's? Elmer's?
Yeah, Elmer's, that's what it was. Yeah, I miss it. Joyce thinks it ought to be a great food cart place, but that's another story for another time. We've been watching these bushes grow more and more and more into the sidewalk. I think they're just about impassable with a wheelchair. And finally I got tired of it and took a picture and turned it into my OC or OC request or whatever it's called. The next day when we walked by there, it had been cleaned up. I was so impressed that we could walk side by side down the sidewalk again. It was very nice. And I don't know who did that. whether that's Public Works or Parks and Rec, I don't care who does it. But I just want to say how proud I am of our city and how fast they can respond to things. So please, whoever did that, give them some kudos, would you please?
Thank you. I had actually turned it into the manager, store manager at Fred Meyer about a week ago. I brought it to his attention.
No point, no point. No, you use OC request.
I know.
Get it
but
done.
I figured
It's-
I'd give him the courtesy of
That's nice.
doing something about it before I did the OC request, so
Don't diminish my request. It got done the next day.
that's okay. He didn't do it in a week, so there you go. Anyway, thank you. We will pass that on to our code officers and thank them again. So next on our agenda, we have adoption of the agenda and we have the consent agenda. Do we have any questions or concerns about anything on here? Or do we have a motion?
I'd
Yes,
like
sir.
to pull item 7G just for a one-word correction.
Okay, do it. Right now.
I just pulled it off the consent agenda. We
Well-
need to vote on the rest of it and
Okay,
then
because I was
discuss
gonna say, if
that
it's
item.
one word correction, we don't have to pull it. Why don't you just make the correction?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, okay, all right. Let's have a motion to adopt everything except item G, and then we'll go back to that and get his correction.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith, moved by Commissioner Morrow.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
It may be the same one that I saw, so go right ahead, sir.
Okay, on item 7G, under item 9C, there's a name that's spelled wrong. I wouldn't normally make an issue over one word, but since it's somebody's name, the record really should be accurate. I forget what it says exactly now, but it's Derek Metzen, M-E-T-S-O-N.
Oh, you're talking about Derek Mattson?
Yeah, M-E-T-S-O-N is the way you spell his name.
Yeah,
And it says Metzer, I think, in there now.
okay.
So with that change, I'll move to approve item 7G.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
If you guys happen to see anything like that, let staff know. If you see stuff like that, let them know ahead of time. All right, I do have a request of the commission. I am wondering if we can exchange places with item 8 and item 9. The applicant for item 9A is here, and if that's okay with you, we'll move that up. That'd be okay? All right. All right. We're going to move to item 9A, Adaptive Reuse Development Agreement, London D Investments LLC. And who's doing that staff report? Mr. Conkle or Ms.?
And I'll do this.
Okay, all right. And we need the clicker. Thank you, Ms. Griffin.
All right, good evening, Commissioners, and good evening, Mayor. I'm Ann Griffin. I'm the Economic Development Staff Person for the City of Oregon City, and I'm joined this evening with Donna London, who is the building owner and the program participant in our adaptive reuse program.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Gotta turn the light on. Move it up really close. It moves, so just move it up close.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you again for being here. And
We have a very specific purpose for coming before you tonight, and that is to speak about and review the development agreement that will be entered into between the City of Oregon City and Donna London through the Adaptive Reuse Program. And we're going to walk through the specific items that will be included in the rehabilitation project and what will be needed to be accomplished in order to convert the loan to a grant through the loan forgiveness component of the program. Oops, I'm going the wrong way. I put this slide in just to orient ourselves. I think you'll be remembering the conversations. Ms. London has appeared before you a few times to talk about the project at 703, 705 Main. The building was built in 1908, and the project will leverage additional investment in the building, will restore a currently vacant space, and create a visually unified facade at that location. I had our city recorder pass out a updated copy of the development agreement. I think you all have one now. The specific item that was corrected and what you received tonight versus what you got in the ahead of time was the very top of the, it was item 3, the second column on the right. It mentions that the development period is going to be 160 days. And so that's corrected in what our city recorder is passing out. So just to walk you through, again, this is a legal agreement that we're entering into. Can't read that. The way that the program works is that the participant in the adaptive reuse agrees to undertake specific improvements at the facility. These are the items in particular. There'll be removal of the rear shed, reconstruction of the roof at that rear building. The first floor commercial area ceiling will be raised by approximately 4 feet. There will be new windows and commercial door installed at the 705 storefront. They'll be opening up the basement, which is now closed off, and installing 5 office units in that basement level. There'll be also the installation of a new fire suppression system and a new fire alarm. So those are the specific items that we'll be looking for to activate the forgiveness aspect of the building program. So as you can see, those are listed in the development agreement. And then when the project team does complete each of those improvements, we'll receive a project completion report that will include photographs, and then we'll have someone from our building inspection staff go down and verify that, and that's what will activate the loan forgiveness aspect of the program. So those are the highlights of the development agreement that I wanted to make sure that folks at the commission were aware of as we enter into this legal agreement with Donald London. Do folks have any questions?
Gentlemen, any questions? Yes, Mike?
I have one, kind of a hypothetical. You start working on old buildings and stuff happens and schedules slide. So my question is, say we get to this January 18th date where it would become a loan and payments would have to start, and 4 of the 6 are completed, but all 6 aren't. How would we handle that situation if there's been a good faith effort to get to the finish line, but we hit the finish line before what our contract says, before all the work is done?
It's a good question, and I appreciate it. I believe, we'll be in continual contact with the project team. Even before we sign, as you see, this is a draft. We'll have if we think if we need to add additional days to the 160, this is what the project team has told us. But you're right, things do slide. Work people get sick. I don't foresee any difficulty in us renegotiating that one, that day, as long as it's something that is reasonable and, as you said, negotiated in good faith. I think we can accommodate a reasonable change in the schedule, as you're pointing out.
Basically, we're talking about an extension.
I'm happy to see this go forward. I think it's a great program, and I just want to make sure we don't end up jammed up at the end, despite Ms. London's efforts to get it done. So thank you.
Thank you.
Rocky?
My only question is about, if you go back to the picture, which I know is just the picture of the current building, but so when it's only referring to one door, so is that the door on the left?
I think actually both of the doors are going to be.
Okay, well, that's not what it says, so I'm concerned that it says,
That's what Derek said was going to happen, that both
well,
doors are going to be
that's not what
replaced.
it says in the agreement. I'm just pointing out that it doesn't
Yes,
say that.
I
It says
understand.
it basically implies one commercial door. So since it said that, I was like, well, is the one door you're replacing matching the other one? And if it is both doors, then it needs to say both doors.
It will be so amended.
I think that's all I
Ms.
had.
London, that's correct,
Question?
both doors, I recall from
Yeah.
Mr. Mattson's presentation that both doors were going to be replaced.
Okay, so then it just needs to match. I'm
So we
there.
can make an amendment to the document since it's still in draft. Anything else? Do we have a motion? This is where we don't want the awkward silence.
I'm fine. Yeah.
I'll move to approve the adaptive reuse development agreement with London D Investments with the revision to refer to 2 doors.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson. Aye. Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do we need a break? Okay, everybody good? We need a break? Okay, all right. All right, let's move back to the agenda where we're going to go back to item 8A. And hang on just a second, let me grab my agenda. So tonight we have a public hearing. It is an appeal of Planning Commission decision regarding 1367 Molalla Avenue Master Plan General Development Plan approval. Take a deep breath, conditional use approval for drive-through uses, maximum parking adjustment, detailed development review, DDP for construction of a new public road, parcel C. And I will skip reading all the file numbers if that's okay.
That is okay, Mayor.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing and have you
Yes.
read the
Okay.
statement. So
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to read please go ahead and open it. Opened.
it's open, yes. Open the public hearing.
Commissioners, I'm going to just read through a few sideboards. This is an appeal hearing, and it's a land use appeal hearing. Members of the commission are required to be unbiased. So first, does any commissioner wish to declare any bias? Okay. Does any commissioner wish to disclose any potential conflicts such as family, financial, or business relationships with the applicants?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Have any commissioners discussed the application with any of the parties, or do you have independent knowledge of relevant facts such as a site visit? So any ex parte context to disclose. I do want to note that there was a newspaper article a couple of weeks ago, and if you happen to read that, that would be fine to disclose that as an ex parte contact.
Let's go down the
Yeah.
line.
No ex parte contact. I did not read the newspaper article, wasn't aware of it, and other than driving past the location multiple times a day, that's it.
Yeah, same. No ex parte contact I'm aware of. Again, drive by the site regularly.
Adam?
I drive by the site regularly, but my focus is on not getting a flat tire on Molalla Avenue, so I can't focus on that site. No ex parte contact. I did see the Oregonian article after several of my state colleagues sent it to me, so I did see that. As far as bias, I have been known to enjoy a spicy chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A, but apart from that, nothing else to disclose.
I do drive by the site regularly. I did see and I did read the Oregonian article, but I had no real takeaway. Didn't provide me any information that I really didn't already know about.
I also live here and drive by the site multiple times a day. I did read the article in the Oregonian. I also am very familiar with Dale Younger, the late Dale Younger, and his family. I've known them for years. I used to work with them when I was the City of Oregon City land use planner. And I will say that in the past, probably 25 years was probably the last time I was on site. So I've not been on site recently because it's been fenced off. So those are my ex parte contacts. I think everybody in town drives by that I will say this, that I did pull off the road to read the notice of land use action sign that was posted, which I do with many places in Oregon City when I see them and it's safe to pull off the road.
Thank you, commissioners. Does anyone in the audience wish to question any of the commissioners about these disclosures? Okay, hearing none. The commission rules of procedure state that the public hearing process for this appeal item is buried in my paperwork. It is that the staff report will have 15 minutes for the staff report. Then we will have 10 minutes for the appellant presentation. We'll have 3 minutes for any individuals who participated orally in writing before the Planning Commission, and then 5 minutes for the appellant's rebuttal. And with that, I believe.
Ms. Ryan, I do have one more thing
Yes,
that I need to declare.
please.
So I did attend the first hearing that was scheduled before the Planning Commission, but there was no evidence presented. There was nothing. It was canceled, but I was sitting in the audience. But there wasn't any discussion about anything. It was a continuance was asked for, and that was the end of the meeting.
Okay.
And I was actually there for the other item that was on the agenda that night.
Thank you, Mayor. Does anyone, please go ahead.
On that line, I did view the video of the most recent Planning Commission hearing, but that's part of the record, is it not?
It is part of the record.
Okay, thank you.
Those are both part of the record. Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for the staff report.
Yes, please go right ahead.
Oh, and here I am.
Oh, yes, we have to go over that.
Here I am again, okay.
That's
So this,
normally what we get to read, so.
this is an appeal that's considered by the commission, you, on the record. What that means is that no evidence that's not already in the record can be submitted tonight or considered by the commission. And what that means is that although it's really tempting and really difficult, your personal knowledge of other applications for this site that have happened in the past, or your personal knowledge of perhaps the applicant, or just your personal knowledge from living in the community is not in the record, and so it can't be considered. Again, only people who submitted comments during the proceeding below, meaning before the Planning Commission, will be able to allowed to participate in the hearing. Under the code, the scope of your review is limited to the items that are identified in the applicant's notice of appeal. And there's a single issue that was raised in the notice of appeal, and as we will get into in more detail in the staff report, it is an issue of code interpretation regarding OCMC 1744-060 subsection L. And I think tonight you're going to hear that just shorthanded frequently as L or subsection L. Okay. Based on the appellant's appeal statement, we wanted to list some issues that were addressed in the Planning Commission decision, which again was an approval with conditions, that weren't raised in the notice of appeal. And those include the timing of construction of TSP project S28, which you'll hear referred to as the shared use path, the availability of a fee in lieu, a payment of a fee in lieu of constructing TSP S28, and whether the cost of TSP S28 is roughly proportional to the impacts from the development. Those are not issues that were raised in the notice of appeal. And so I would recommend that you refrain from considering them as part of this appeal. Okay.
All right, so just to provide a quick overview of what the Planning Commission approved on April 20th, 2026. This was for a framework master plan and a detailed development plan for Parcel C, which is the new public street. The Planning Commission approved the master plan detailed development plan with conditions, and they specifically provided direction on the 4 following topics. They approved the conditional use for the drive-through on Parcel A and Parcel D. They approved the parking maximum request on Parcel D. but denied the parking maximum request on parcel A, but they did encourage the applicant to provide additional detail and apply during the future detailed development plan for that parcel. They agreed with the staff recommendation and conditions to relocate the north end of the shared use path and integrate it into parcel B, and really is relevant to tonight's appeal. They agreed with staff's interpretation of OC MC 1744060L, and indicated the development standards that staff does not have the authority to approve development in the buffer area beyond what is allowed by the development code. And there is a fair amount of findings in the staff report that address this. And so if the City Commission agrees with the Planning Commission decision, there are relevant findings for that. If the City Commission chooses to have alternate findings for that interpretation, you will need to work with staff and our city attorney on next steps for that. We believe, staff, that we have adequate findings in the record that address this question, that the Planning Commission found that they agreed with staff on this finding. So I'm going to pass this over to Assistant City Engineer, Josh Wheeler, who will
Got a promotion, Josh.
who will lay out the issues related to this section of the Geologic Hazard Code.
Thank you, Christina. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So as you heard, this appeal is solely about the interpretation about a portion of Geologic Hazard Code. My presentation is going to provide a background of this land use application, a review of the code, some snippets of Planning Commission discussion, and staff's interpretation of 1744.60L, all of which is part of the existing land use file. On April 21st, 2025, a year ago, after a pre-application meeting with the applicant, City Engineering Development Services staff provided notes that summarized many parts of the project, but specifically included notes on the Geologic Hazards Overlay Zone, which said in part, portions of the project reside within geologic hazard areas. The applicant will be required to address Chapter 1744 of the Oregon City Municipal Code. The development standards for sites within geologic hazard areas are outlined in 4460 and includes requirements related to a number of elements of development, the most notable but not comprehensive list of 174460H and I, development where map landslides, slopes over 25%, and their buffer zones occur within the parcels. It also said, contact the city and geotechnical engineering consultant, Poly Consulting, for all geotechnical engineering coordination. A year later, April 13th, 2026, Planning Commission meeting Chair Espy asked the applicant if there was any dialogue during the process. The applicant only mentioned a discussion on a phone call a week prior to that meeting. Chair Espy also asked if there was anything in the record. Staff stated nothing was written between the pre-application meeting and that Planning Commission meeting, and that it was staff's understanding there was no coordination by the applicant with the city's geotech. You're going to see why that's important in a minute. On March 24th, a few weeks earlier, 2026, staff summarized in detail in a letter to the applicant that the application and plans presented showing impacts to the Geologic Hazards Overlay Zone, specifically to the landslide deposit buffer zone. Staff detailed this in their presentation then on April 13th, 2026. The code in question of 1744.60H and I states, among other things, that development proposed within a geologic hazards overlay zone within steep slopes, landslide deposits, or landslide deposit buffers is limited to 4,000 square feet of disturbance per existing parcel. That's generally what that summary on the screen says. Going back, you'll see here that the magenta, pink, purple color, whatever your eyes see there, that is labeled city map landslide buffer, you'll see that the stormwater management area, the roadway, and portions of the parking lot are in that buffer zone. Now, furthermore, Code 1744.060L is in question, and the Assistant City Attorney stated on April 13th, 2026, that the review of this code interpretation was discussed with executives in the city staff, and it was determined the key phrase was "as provided in this chapter." This does not allow any type of variance as desired by the applicant. Now, the applicant has a different interpretation of Part L, but assuming staff's interpretation is correct, let's dive a little further. On April 13th, 2026, staff spoke on behalf of the city's geotechnical engineer and said, his job is to review applications per the code, not necessarily the science, because code is intentionally more conservative than the science. Back in 2021, it was intentional by the City Commission to make the code more conservative than what the science would probably say. And this is me speaking at that meeting, I have talked to our geotech engineer. Our geotech engineer has said, based on the code and the way he is interpreting the code and the way the city has historically interpreted the code, we have consistently said that Section L, which has been in the code since sometime before 2010, L has always been there. It's a catch-all. It says, here is everything in the code that applies, and once you get to L, if we miss something, feel free to make some engineering interpretations, but not feel free to revise what you just read. The variableness is what is not in the code. It is our geotech's opinion that the current proposal does not meet code, but can if adjustments are made by moving things. His answer also was that scientifically it makes sense. Unfortunately, it does not meet code. The applicant submitted a geotechnical report dated 2022 and one dated 2012, both of which I know were prepared prior to the pre-application for the project. But it showed a 35-foot setback, and in this picture here, that's represented by the black line to the right. That was their 35-foot setback line. The 35 setback line was their recommendation from their report from previous applications, but it is different from the city's 50-foot buffer for steep slopes and the 200-foot buffer from landslide deposits. The reports did not include any maps from the city's current GIS showing the city map geotechnical hazard overlay zone, including any regulated buffers. So to recap, a small background on code changes occurred back in 2021. During a response to the Planning Commission on 4/13/26, staff said, back in 2021, it was intentional by the City Commission to make the code more conservative than what the science would probably say. While the 35-foot setback is not listed as an option in code, and staff's opinion that Section L does not allow for variance, staff still felt that the application could be conditioned for approval, and this led to land use conditions 2, 21, and 38 in the DDP, and 10 and 11 in the GDP. And so I want to list two of those quickly. DDP condition 38, impacts to the map landside area and buffer located to the rear of the property shall be limited to 4,000 square feet of grading, stripped vegetation, or coverage and impermeable surfaces per parcel. The proposed stormwater pond and roadway improvements shall be redesigned or relocated outside of the geologic hazard area to meet this standard. GDP condition 11, Parcel B's future DDP application shall be required to make significant changes to its site plan in order to meet the city's geologic hazard code within the map landslide and steep slope areas for allowable earth disturbance and dwelling unit density. These conditions of approval, along with several others as listed in the land use decision before you, were recommended to be accepted by the Planning Commission. So if you were to deny the appeal by the applicant tonight, you would be supporting these conditions of approval.
All right, I'm going to hand it back to Assistant City Attorney, Missy Ryan.
Thank you, Commissioners. So for our last slide for the staff report, we want to suggest two options. One option would be to deny the appeal and affirm the Planning Commission decision, approving the application with conditions and adopting the Planning Commission's interpretation of subsection L as the City Commission's interpretation. The second possibility is to approve the appeal based on modified findings adopted by the Commission, approving the application with relevant conditions modified by the City Commission. because of the timing and because of when the 120-day deadline expires, we would need to either write those findings tonight or more likely, perhaps, have a special meeting early next week. I believe that concludes the staff report.
Commissioners, are there any questions of the staff? Okay, so we will move forward with testimony. And we will call up the applicant, and I do want to make it clear that I will be keeping strict time. I have a timer here in front of me, you have a timer there, so please stay on task. Green button.
I know, this is my third time I've been here in the last month, and I always forget to press the button.
Everybody does it. Everybody does it.
Thank you very much. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, before the clock starts, just for the record, my name's Greg Hathaway. I'm an attorney representing
Well, the clock is, if you're starting to talk, then the clock is starting.
Okay, then I will not talk, but make a request that because of the complexity of this appeal and what has happened to this applicant based upon staff's change of position, that basically the Planning Commission recommendation is a denial because we could not develop this project based upon that interpretation. So we're requesting an additional 5 minutes of time to make our presentation, respectfully.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, they concur.
Okay, thank you very much, appreciate that. So again, for the record, Greg Hathaway representing the applicant Cypress. With me this evening is Scott Franklin, who is the project engineer for Cypress, and also Kirk Williams, who is the managing director for Cypress.
Just excuse me.
Mr. Franklin's.
Oh, hi there. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Franklin is going to talk about the two key development issues that were raised by staff, and based upon this new interpretation by staff affects how this project gets developed. So Mr. Franklin's going to focus on those two key development areas so that you have an understanding of how this interpretation basically doesn't allow the applicant to develop the site. Mr. Williams then is going to testify explaining the difficulty of accepting this interpretation and how devastating it is to this proposed development. Again, the Planning Commission recommendation for approval, or the decision for approval with conditions, is effectively a denial by accepting the staff's new interpretation of your code. We did not intend to be in front of you this evening talking about an appeal from the Planning Commission. And let me tell you why. Cypress and the project's team spent over a year working with staff to make sure that the applicant would get a positive staff recommendation with conditions based upon what was proposed, including development within this 200-foot buffer area that we're talking about this evening. Because the original application that the staff recommended approval for included that development in that area. And the applicant relied upon that. We came to the March 23rd Planning Commission hearing with the notion that we were going to accept that staff recommendation with conditions. But instead, right before that hearing started, we were advised that staff was changing the location of the shared path from the way it's designated in the transportation system plan to somewhere else on the site that would absolutely significantly impact how we develop the property. Less than 24 hours later, we got a message from Mr. Wheeler that staff is now changing their position in interpretation of how development could take place in this 200-foot buffer. Heard it for the first time, less than 24 hours after the first hearing. That was continued at our request. And I call it a change of interpretation because it had to be a change of interpretation because staff recommended approval of that development in that area. So it was a change of interpretation from what we understood to be the city's interpretation. And Mr. Wheeler called it, historically, the staff has interpreted, the city's interpreted that provision not to allow the safety valve that we're asking for now in interpretation, because again, staff knew that this development was going to occur in that area and in fact recommended it. 24 hours later, after that first hearing, they changed their position. That's what we're concerned about, is that it's a change of position and it devastates this project. And Mr. Williams is going to talk more about that. But the key here tonight is this interpretation that we're advocating, which is apparently the interpretation that staff had going into the March 23rd hearing, is plausible. It makes all the sense in the world because it doesn't allow any development to occur in this buffer area unless it works from an engineering perspective, from a science perspective. And our interpretation, which I think was the staff's interpretation going to the March 23rd hearing, is that the city had absolute discretion to determine whether or not this development should occur. With this new interpretation now, there's no opportunity for a project like this to develop. And so we're going to be asking this evening for your city commission to adopt your city attorney's option 2, which is to interpret this the way staff interpreted it going into the March 23rd hearing. And I'd like to have Mr. Franklin talk about the development issues.
Yeah, Scott Franklin, Langen Engineering, Clackamas. And first comment is just for clarity on the pre-app. Mr. Wheeler talked about a reference in the pre-app notes to the specific sections of 1744 and implied that staff directed us to all of those sections and said, hey, this is something that you guys knew about. The reality is that section L is also in 1744, which allows a detailed study, which is exactly what was provided. So the discussion of no ifs, ands, or buts, no engineering solution is saying that that was known up front is simply not true. I'd like to direct your attention to the layout that you see. The buffer is the dash line next to the building running through the stormwater facility, running across the road, and extending down into the purple road going to the south. And the impact of that is that there's obviously an impact to the layout, there's impact to the city's pathway, impact to the sidewalks and roadway. And in this exhibit, you also see the retaining wall that Mr. Wheeler pointed out. There's a high factor of safety that's well above the industry norms for that. And now picture that whole development pushed to the west, 200 feet. Now that doesn't solve the road issue, and note that the sidewalks are in the road. So if that's development's pushed to the west, then yes, the development is pushed out beyond the buffer area, but that doesn't eliminate the risk. So rain can still fall on that, and the landslide risk within that buffer still exists. And if it's pushed out beyond the buffer, the wall doesn't exist. The wall will not be constructed. And the proposed development will capture the rainwater and divert it away from the landslide area and the buffer. And that's a key element of slope stability. I want to direct your attention to 1744-060G, and this was also discussed in our presentation at Planning Commission. And that section specifically refers to what the roads can do within the buffer. And it says, roads shall be the minimum width necessary to provide safe vehicle and emergency access. And it says also that the review authority may grant a variance from the city's required road standards upon findings that the variance would provide safe vehicle and emergency access, not pedestrian pathways. So this section makes no reference whatsoever to pedestrian pathways. And so if the interpretation is that section L is carried with lesser weight than the other sections and cannot be considered, then there's no sidewalks in that road, The road is already designed for minimum travel for vehicles and emergency vehicles, but it can't have sidewalks in that buffer based on this code section. So the applicant's process of a scientific solution to this solves all of that. And Mr. Wheeler also commented that we're seeking a variance by implementing this section, by section L. We're not seeking a variance. Section L carries the same weight as the other sections. And again, pushing the parcel B development west doesn't solve any of the issues. And also, if the interpretation is that nothing can be done in that buffer other than just the roadway, then the Beaver Creek access management plan also can't be done because you can't have the sidewalks in that management plan. Kirk, I'll turn this over to you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Kirk Williams, 3012 Rosedale, Dallas, Texas. I want to begin with the most important fact before the commission tonight. Our proposed development would make this site and the surrounding properties safer than they are today. Both our geotechnical engineer and the city's own geotechnical engineer agree that the engineered retaining wall system in our proposal would stabilize the historic shallow landslides on this site and protect the downhill properties from future landslides. This is not a contested point. This is science. The 200-foot geo buffer exists in the code for one purpose: to protect health, public health, safety, and welfare of the landslide hazards. Our proposed development directly advances and improves upon that very purpose. Doing nothing leaves the historic landslide condition in place. Approving our project removes that condition, that unsafe condition. This is why we're asking the commission to consider a plausible interpretation of the section in discussion tonight. Such an interpretation is plausible. It is consistent with legislative intent of the code, and it provides the city absolute discretion to determine whether a proposed development would prevent landslides and damage. And with that as a foundation, I would like to walk the commission through kind of how we got here, because we believe the history of this matters. Because we've been working with city staff for over a year. We also been working with the surrounding neighbors and the neighboring properties and the homeowners in the area. We've also been working with property users to successfully develop the site to its highest and best use. All of this effort is consistent with what we expected, but what was not expected was the last minute change and the city staff coming up with an interpretation that we completely believed otherwise. This change of interpretation came regardless of everybody's acceptance that the city staff and the city geoengineer had accepted the science of the retaining wall system that would stabilize what was an unsafe condition. Again, these last minute changes devastate our position. Please understand, what we received was not an approval. It was a denial with conditions. We can't go forward with this in the current situation. Now, I understand this is a complicated situation. I do understand that. And I understand the easy button would be to accept the city staff and the planning commissions with the conditions they put on the property. I get that. I'd be in the same place you are. But our collective role here is to push past this oversimplification of the previous decisions and understand what is being requested. And that is to consider this to make the site safer. And getting it right is significant, because the upside of getting it right is the project goes forward. with an engineered retaining wall that makes the site safer. Approving this project means the design road connecting Beaver Creek to Malala gets completed. Approving the project means the contribution that's discussed to the shared use path, wherever that is. And approving this project means an abandoned vacant property returned to productive use, generating tax dollars. And approving this project sends a clear message to us, to future investors, to developers, that the city's process works. We respectfully ask the commission to interpret section 17.44.060L to permit, on a case-by-case discretion, to allow this project to go forward with the retaining wall system in the 200-foot buffer. Thank you very much.
Madam Mayor, members of the commission, that would conclude our initial presentation, and we would reserve our 5 minutes for rebuttal.
So we only have one person who's asked to provide some testimony on this particular item.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I could just
Please
interrupt.
don't call me madam, okay? Thank you.
I apologize.
That's okay. Just-
Mayor.
Yes, thank you.
If the commissioners have questions of the appellant applicant, please ask them before you begin your deliberations.
Yeah, I wasn't going
while
to do
they're-
that. I was just noting that we did have one person. I was
Thanks.
letting the commissioners know.
Okay.
I was not ready to go there. Do you all have any questions? Nope? Nope. Okay. So may I call the person that would like to comment? Okay. Star of the show, come on up. Mr. Gifford. Just for the record, remember that we can't introduce any new information. This is an on-the-record hearing. And we do have your testimony that you made previously, written testimony, that's in the record.
Thank you for the clarification. My name is William Gifford, and I live in Oregon City. Specifically, I live just a few hundred feet away from this site, so I consider myself fairly intimate with the situation, and I talked to all my neighbors about it. I mentioned in my testimony, and I just want to make sure that that was included in there, and I hope that you all read, it's a very short letter, but it starts off with a very simple concept. We don't need that path. Nobody has asked for that path except the concept from, 12 years ago or so about hoping to have a trail system between the parks. It doesn't even go to Mill Creek Canyon trailhead. It goes out the back door, up a hill, across a neighborhood with no sidewalks, and into a side entrance. It's not a good place for a path. And if that is causing so much consternation insofar as the geological hazards, I just don't understand, why don't we just move the path as I suggested in my letter? It just doesn't make sense to me that we have to beat a dead horse and say we have to have that path. It has to be this. We have Metro involved. We have the geologic is going to wind up at a sewer pump station. Why are we doing this? Why don't we just move the path? Take it down Molalla. The sidewalks are already there. All it would take would be some signing. No muss, no fuss, no science involved at all. It's just, to me, it's just a brainless solution. Just do it. I mean, it's not something you have to overthink it. So please don't overthink it. Move the path. Take that out of the plan.
Thank you.
I'd be happy to answer any questions. I've got another whole minute on the clock.
Absolutely. Do you sing or dance?
No other questions? Can anybody answer why the path has to be there?
We're not going to really be
I'm not
responding.
asking you questions, no.
Thank you. Thank you, William.
Is the path location part of what or whether or not there's a path part of what we are discussing tonight?
Not really.
No, it is not.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Well, I don't see, there's nobody here for rebuttal. There's nobody making a, pardon?
Yes, so I'm looking at the commission rules of procedure. It allows 3 minutes for individuals. There's also a section for questions of staff, and then there is 5 minutes for the applicant's rebuttal, although it doesn't really make sense to rebut yourselves if you're the appellant.
Well, that was my thinking.
The applicant's counsel did ask to reserve 5 minutes for rebuttal.
I don't see that we have anything to rebut at this point. I mean, do you? Oh, go right ahead.
Well, first, thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to ask staff to come back up because I do have some questions, and I would be in favor of allowing a rebuttal. I assume that they would have items to rebut from the staff, so I would be interested in hearing that.
I think they kind of pretty much did that.
So, may I?
Sorry, I'm sorry. We just need to take a breath for a minute. It's just dry in here. Thank you.
So, first, I was hoping staff could explain where this last minute change came from. What was it that caused that change of interpretation so late in the process? It was embarrassing to see that information, and I think it communicates the wrong thing about what we would like to see in Oregon City. So having something that I can justify for that reason would be very helpful.
Yes, thank you for that question. First of all, I want to note that staff's interpretation has been consistent. However, the communication of that interpretation may have been lacking. So, as I said in my presentation, in the pre-application notes, staff mentioned 174460 and its buffer. It's written in the pre-application notes. That buffer does not show up in any of their materials, in the applicant's materials. Staff also relied on the applicant to review those sections of code and apply to their application accordingly. Staff also relied on applicants' consultants to coordinate with the city's geotechnical consultant. As I said in my presentation, that never occurred. Now, could staff have done a better job at communicating with the applicant, saying the things you're proposing do not meet what we talked about in April of 2025? Yes. Are we putting things in place to prevent that? Again, yes. However, the message did not change. The message was still, on March 24th, that the buffer is important and that our geotechnical consultant needs consulted. And that was the memo of March 24th, which came out after the Planning Commission meeting of March 23rd.
Okay, thank you. And then I just have one more, if I may.
Go ahead.
So in reading through subsection L, every time it refers to the review authority, is your interpretation that the review authority is staff?
So it depends. When it's a type 2 application and there's only a staff review, staff is the review authority. When it's a type 3 and it's planning commission, the planning commission is the review authority. And if that's appealed or it's a type 4 and it gets to city commission, then the city commission becomes the ultimate review authority. That's our current interpretation.
Okay, so when I hear that, because that was how I read it as well, when I read that we are the review authority and it says that we shall determine, so replacing review authority with us, we shall determine whether the proposed methods of rendering a known or potential hazard site safe for construction, including proposed geotechnical remediation methods, are feasible and adequate to prevent landslides or damage to property and safety. It feels like that does give some air of choice of interpretation to us as the review authority. Is that not what you would say?
That is not staff's interpretation. Staff's interpretation is that the review authority, whoever it may be, depending on what process we're in, has the authority to review things that are not within the code. So if there are sections of the code that talk about steep slopes and landslides and buffers and 4,000 square feet, the different numbers you've heard tonight, those are set in stone. Those are the standards. Geotechnical engineering science may have more to say about that, and those extra things are what staff say are up to the review authority to determine, because those are beyond what code has available.
Okay. And lastly, I just want to acknowledge the fact that you have been on your own for a while now, just without the city engineer position having been filled until just recently. So I want to acknowledge that and thank you for holding down the fort for that period of time.
Thank you. I think we would all concur with that. Are there any other questions? I think maybe not you were here, but we spent considerable amount of time as a commission and the Planning Commission strengthening the codes that regard this particular section, because we all had concerns about what could be done, what couldn't be done, not making any interpretation about this, but we had very specific reasons why we wanted some of the standards in the code to be a little more stringent because of the situation we have with our community. We know that there are significant areas of properties that move. We've had experience with that over the many years that some of us have been here, including staff.
I have a point of order.
Yes, so
Is what the mayor is saying, sounds to me like new information
what I'm getting
regarding
to is,
how the commission got to the
I'm not
decisions
talking
that
about
were
this made.
particular
particular section. I'm just saying that we asked for that. So
what I'm saying is this is background information as to how 17.44060 was strengthened, and it's not a part of the record.
Not that specific section. I was saying our work and deliberation. So what my concern is the Planning Commission made decisions and information based on a whole number of factors. And as some of us know, they tend to do the heavy lifting for what is going on. I read everything probably several times. And I think that the report is pretty clear and succinct. I didn't have any difficulty in understanding what it is the staff was trying to get across.
Commissioner Mitchell, I understand the mayor's comments to be along the lines of what is already in the record, testimony by the city engineer about the 2021 adoption of the geologic hazard overlay zone provisions.
I wasn't specific to the date, Mike, but that's what I was referring to.
I just don't want us to get in a situation where we're allowing information that was not in the record. I just wanted clarification.
I agree.
That was in the record. Questions? Okay, thank you. Did you want to say anything?
No, thank you so much. I would recommend allowing the applicant to have their 5 minutes of rebuttal to close everything out.
That would be preferable.
It would be.
As long as they're not blaming people. For once, it's too hot in here.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Commission, again, Greg Hathaway representing Cypress. I appreciate the comments that staff has made, but I think it's important to clarify a couple things because Mr. Wheeler tried to give the impression that we should have known better, that in fact the code didn't permit what we had proposed to do. But remember, the staff actually recommended approval of that development in this area when it made its recommendation to the Planning Commission. we didn't find out that the staff had changed its position until 24 hours after the first hearing. So any comment by staff that we should have known better, I would say they should have known better, or they should have told us about it, other than 24 hours after the first hearing where they were recommending approval in this area, development approval in this area. During a phone call, and I stated this to the Planning Commission, so it's in the record, I asked Mr. Wheeler during a conversation shortly after March 24th, Mr. Wheeler, did you review the staff report that recommended approval of development in this area? His answer was, I did not review it. But it went forward as a recommendation to the Planning Commission until Mr. Wheeler wrote his letter to us saying, you can't do it because staff now has this interpretation. But I told the Planning Commission, we didn't want to talk about mistakes or errors that happened that adversely affect this development. I said, let's focus on the solution. The solution is your city council has the authority to interpret its own code. And the interpretation that we have offered to your city council is very plausible because it gives this city absolute discretion to determine on a case-by-case basis whether a particular development should take place in this area. And all the experts, including the city staff, agree it's okay to do in this area. It meets the test of Section L. You have absolute discretion, and it makes it safer and better. If you don't adopt that interpretation, this project's not going to occur. This property is going to remain vacant, and it's going to be the same attractive nuisance for all the wrong reasons instead of allowing this development to occur. It's our legal position that your city council has the authority to interpret the code as we see it, as two members of the Planning Commission saw it, and it's plausible, it's defensible, and it's the right result under the right circumstances because with our interpretation, the city council has total discretion. The city has total discretion either to allow it or not based upon sound engineering and sound science. So we're asking your city council to adopt option 2 and accept an interpretation that allows this development to move forward. Mr. Williams, do you have a comment?
I've heard it tonight, and I've heard it at Planning Commission, is that of to prevent the failure of similar to other projects. I spoke to our geoengineer in regards to that comment. That failure of a complex, totally different design, did not have a soldier pile retaining wall established 5 foot into the bedrock and had...
Excuse me, let me stop you. I don't think that sounds like new information's getting brought into this.
Mayor, there was discussion prior to the close of the record by both planning commissioners and citizens about the Forest Heights apartments. I think they called them by name. So there's a little bit of information in the record about this, but I don't believe that there is information in the record about how that particular building was engineered.
Okay.
Your time has stopped, so stop it for just a second. So that must be a new name. We're talking about Newell Creek Apartments? Okay, thank you. They changed every time the apartments get sold, they change to something else. I can't keep up with all the names,
Okay.
So. Okay, thank you. You can start the clock.
Again, this is just coming back to the science, that the science of that project was highly inferior to...
You just said we're not talking about that.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah, thank you.
Real quick, Mr. Wheeler talked about that it was the applicant's responsibility to confer with the city's geotechnical engineer. Section L says it's the review authority. It's not the applicant's responsibility to connect with the city's geotech engineer.
Okay,
That completes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and allow for deliberation by the city commission. I'm just going to make one statement to lead off. My long career in planning, the applicant has the sole burden of proof to review all ordinances and codes. That is what is required. It is not our responsibility to review that other than if there's an appeal. And that is like Land Use 101. Gentlemen, do you have any comments? Should I go down the line before I lose my voice here altogether? Adam?
Sure.
Please, thank you so much.
Thank you. And this is an appeal, so
Yes.
it gives us the opportunity
Yes,
to do
sir.
that. I've gone back and forth on this because I take very seriously the charge that we have sitting here, which is not to create new policy, but to interpret existing code and the existing language. But as I read through the text, so looking first at the intent and purpose of 1744, the intent and purpose of the provisions of OCMC Chapter 1744 are to ensure that activities in geologic hazard areas are designed based on detailed knowledge of site conditions in order to reduce the risk of private and public losses. And then I'll skip down to Section D, which says to mitigate risk associated with geologic hazard areas, not to act as a guarantee that the hazard risk will be eliminated, nor as a guarantee that there is a higher hazard risk at any
Are you reading
location.
from the appellant's document or the city's document?
This is from Oregon City Municipal
So
Code.
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, so I read that first, and then going back to my prior question to staff about who the review authority is, that's us. And so as I read through Section L and I replace review authority with city commission, it reads, the city commission shall determine whether the proposed methods of rendering a known or potential hazard site safe for construction, including proposed geotechnical remediation methods, are feasible and adequate to prevent landslides or damage to property and safety. The city commission shall consult with the city's geotechnical engineer in making this determination. Costs for such consultation shall be paid by the applicant. The city commission may allow development in a known or potential hazard area as provided in this chapter if specific findings are made that the specific provisions in the design of the proposed development will prevent landslides or damage. The city commission may impose any conditions, including limits on type or intensity of land use, which it determines are necessary to assure that landslides or property damage will not occur. So going to the text, it seems to me like we do have the discretion. And I know that that isn't staff's interpretation, and I see the assistant city attorney's light on, so I would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, Commissioner, so the staff's interpretation and also, having read it, my interpretation is that the key phrase in L is as provided in this chapter, and that really refers back to the allowed development in the geohazard overlay zone and the buffer, which is allowed as described only in subsection I for this property, subsection I2. As set out in the supplemental staff report, which you might be reading from, this interpretation is an interpretation of the provisions of the geologic hazards overlay zone as it is anywhere in the city. Also including other types of zoning categories, including residential. And the staff report pointed out that one of the objectives in the city amending the code in 2021 was to provide clear and objective standards for evaluating residential development proposals. And so an interpretation that gives the city commission ultimate discretion to decide whether to exceed the limits in I would likely fall apart from the needed housing statutes. So that's something to consider as well. But the key phrase really, in our view, and which of course the commission, this is ultimately your decision, is the as provided in this chapter. And so it's what the staff thinks it's saying is that subsection L says, if you propose 4,000 square foot or under disturbance, or you propose a dwelling density, not really an issue here, then our geotech will review that proposal to make sure that it is, safe. Obviously, the applicant's interpretation is more wide open and would allow essentially, although they don't like when I say this word, what I'm going to just call a variance or an adjustment to all of the development, any development standard that limits development in the geohazards overlay zone.
Rocky? Oh, Michael?
I'll go next.
Thank you.
So we do have, as has been mentioned tonight, we do have the authority to interpret our code. That's why we're here. And so what, as provided in this chapter, means will be up to us to decide. So when I look at all of 1744.060 and it's establishing those rules, there's nothing magic about that 4,000 square foot number. Those rules are kind of creating a box. And if your project lands in the box, it's good. If it in some way goes outside the box, then that's where the problem arises. But then section L talks about a review authority. And if a review authority can only stay inside that box, to me, it doesn't have any authority. Because it's already provided in our code that it's allowed. So if we say that there's no way that the review authority can go outside the box in any way, to me, that eliminates the purpose for a review authority, and there wouldn't be any reason for that to be in the code. The other thing I'll say regarding how long it took for this to come up, that to me speaks to the fact that there is no clear, this is the only way to interpret it, as the staff report indicates. Because if it was very clear that's what it meant, I believe that our staff would have raised the red flag substantially before the day after the hearing. So to me, that the fact that it took that long for it to come up speaks to the fact that it doesn't have a firm and clear definition, and it is up to this review authority to decide. And to me, given where section L calls out for an engineered design solution, I think the applicant has met that, and I'll be in favor of upholding the appeal.
Do you want to let somebody, is it germane to that? Because I wanted to make sure they have an opportunity.
Yeah, it's just a quick comment. So I appreciate the reference to the clear and objective statute and the needed housing. Dealing with that every day in my day job, I have a hard time with the notion that the clear and objective needed housing statutes ought to be used to prevent the development of housing, given that it's for needed housing. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Scott, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I guess for me, just I understand the emphasis on the as provided in this chapter. Where I'm getting kind of caught up or reading is right after, if specific findings are made that the specific provisions in the design of the proposed development will prevent landslides or damage. And so to me, that's reading, if the plans mitigate that risk, which is why this was put in the code in the first place, that there's room for interpretation.
Rocky?
tend to agree with the past the comments from Commissioner Mitchell and Commissioner Wilson. But I'd also like to hear the mayor's interpretation.
Well, I'm not really in a position to interpret. I'm not a geotech engineer, and having been through some of this in the past, I will say that I don't find, let me back up. So the Planning Commission went through a lot of testimony, a lot of reading, a lot of review to get to where they were. They did not deny the application. They approved the application with conditions. And I feel comfortable that this development can succeed. I don't find the statement that if we don't get our way, we're not going to do anything. I think that the conditions that were outlined in the staff report, beyond what the city engineer said, 2, 12, 21, 38, and 11, there was a couple of others that I noted, do allow for this development to move forward. I think that navigating through all of these things, and again, I appreciate your comment about the work that staff has done on this, and I know that both on the planning side and the public works side, that they always work very hard to try to get everything right, but we are people. I don't find the statements casting aspersions on the staff. I don't find those credible. I've worked with these people a long time. I know the type of work they do. And I really find that the staff has properly, and the Planning Commission particularly, let me just talk about the Planning Commission. I think the Planning Commission has properly applied conditions as evidenced in the report that will allow this development to move forward. I think we've got everything in place. I don't think there's anybody that can guarantee that even with the best engineering in the entire world, that something can't happen. There's always a risk. We know when Mother Nature decides to do something, our best efforts sometimes don't always come to fruition. I think that we all have to work very hard to make sure that everybody knows everything that they need to know. But again, as I stated earlier, anybody that applies for any application, period, has the burden of proof. There is no variance to that. There's no exception to that. They have the burden of proof to make sure that they comply or they understand or they are aware of all the codes. That has been, in my opinion, one of the foundations of the land use planning process so that things can move forward. Excuse me. And I feel that based on everything that I've read and the testimony that I have heard, I believe that this project, as conditioned by the Planning Commission, can move forward. I'm comfortable with, I did go back and I went through the same thing you went through, Michael, looking at the sections. And I did get fixated on as provided in this chapter because I went back, and I'm not a geotechnical expert, as I stated before, but I tried to reread all of that to get to how everything applies. And it's, again, it's beyond my professional and personal knowledge. So that is kind of where I'm coming down on this. I thought the findings were substantial and significant to allow for the applicant to come back to meet those conditions and work with staff to make this development happen. I feel comfortable with that, and I strongly believe that this development will be successful. And I appreciate the fact that it's a complicated site. It's not easy, and that's what's left in Oregon City. We got all the complicated sites that are left, and I appreciate the efforts that you all have put into getting to a project that you think will work, and I think this project will work. I'm satisfied with what was submitted. I'm satisfied with the outcome that the Planning Commission went through and made findings, and I believe that this project will be a success. So gentlemen, where would you like to go with this? People want a break?
Has everybody said what they want to say?
Mostly. But they could say more, I'm sure.
Well, I was going to make a motion, but I don't want to do that before everybody's had their say.
Well, why don't you just go ahead and we'll see where we land.
And I'm going to make a motion to approve the appeal.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I will say that I will not support the motion because I don't think that the applicant has met the burden of proof to deny, to have the appeal approved. I think that again, as I stated previously, that everything is in place for them to come in with the conditions that have been approved, recommended by the Planning Commission, that they can make this development work. So, anybody want to say anything else? Please call for the roll, please.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
And Mayor Denise McGriff.
No.
Motion passes.
We need to take a recess right now. I don't know when we'll come back, but we're taking a recess so we can. over with our recess. We are back on the clock. And I will turn this back over to staff.
Okay, thank you, commissioners. The applicant has requested an extension of its 120-day deadline in order for the applicant and staff to work together to prepare new findings that reflect the commission's decision tonight.
They're going to prepare them?
I believe staff and the applicant will work together.
Okay, thank you, because I
prepare
don't feel
them.
comfortable with that.
Yes. That meeting will be back on June 3rd to approve those written findings. And we have also have a little bit of an extension beyond June 3rd in case the findings need further discussion and further refinement.
Okey dokey.
Question, do those go to the planning commission first, or do they come right to us?
No, it's
They
us.
go to the commission,
Okay.
to you.
All right, just asking. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all us. They're out of it now. Okay. All right, so we are at the end of our agenda. And do we have any communications?
I do not have anything tonight, thank you.
What about the dinner? Jacob?
You mean the CCA dinner?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we are hosting the May 2026 CCA dinner. If you don't know what that is, that's Clackamas Cities Association. We'll be right here in the Lukey chambers here having our dinner. The presentation is going to be the city manager talking about current topics and things happening in the city.
And I may be putting in a special request to my favorite police chief to be present because I would like him to participate in that discussion if he is available, and if not, he could send one of his two incredibly intelligent captains. Can that happen? Thank you. I appreciate that. I told Tony I was going to ask you. He's over there giving me the smirk. Okay, commissioners, anything exciting?
I have one thing I would like to say if I could.
Chairman, could you please tell us?
Yeah. So this last, not this last weekend, the weekend before. That was last week. Anyway, went to the Teddy Bear Parade. I think that was an exciting event, you know, lots of things there. But I have to be transparent, something didn't sit well with me, and it has to do with the closure of Main Street. The event didn't even happen. The parade didn't even start until 10th and Main.
That's where it always has been forever.
But where I'm sitting at is we closed down downtown for staging the parade, closing access to all those businesses for staging the parade, when the parade itself doesn't actually even happen downtown. It doesn't even start till 10th and Main. So that just...
Have you ever tried to plan a parade in Oregon City?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
We can meet offline. I can tell you why it's exactly the way it is and why it can't go anywhere else.
I respect you feel that way. It to me just felt, we talk about supporting our businesses and making sure that customers have access to it. It was just interesting that we shut down downtown for staging the parade. And then it remained closed well after the parade had left. So
The Public Works was right on the spot of getting it open prior to 11:30, because I was back down there. They were hustling. And in that vein, I want to thank the Public Works staff, the police department, and code enforcement staff. It was great. We even had our wonderful and exciting motorcycle officer down there, keeping an eye on everybody. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. But thank you for your comment. Appreciate it. Mr. Morrow, anything for you? Mr. Smith?
No.
Okay. So besides the Clackamas County Cities Dinner that's coming up, I think you sent out the invitation, and I appreciate the fact that we're going to have some vegetarian, because a couple of our mayors are vegetarians, and we did not have any vegetarian options in Estacada. And it was definitely noticed by those two people. So it's much appreciated. I do want to, prior to the press release, just let people know that we submitted, on behalf of the city, 3 entries into the If I Were Mayor contest to the Oregon Mayors Association. And we received notification yesterday that we received a first place win in the multimedia contest. Our student is Zoe Zhao. She is a 10th grader at Oregon City High School. I called and let Dr. Spitzer know today that had happened. And we're supposed to be getting some press releases here, but just very exciting that we placed. And I will have to say, Albany and Lake Oswego are also in the winners column as well. So don't have anything to hold over my friend Mayor Joe Buck or my friend Alex Johnson, but we're in there too. So that's just exciting news that we were able to do that. And so we will be having that on a city commission agenda in early June and be giving her award, which is about $500. Plus she got our award as well. So that was, is just very rewarding, and we're going to try to recruit her for the Youth Advisory Commission as well. Our essay winner is already going to be applying for sending an application. So that's Miriam, and I can't think of her last name at the moment, but she goes to, I believe she goes to Gardner. Or was it Tumwater? Well, it's one of the two. So anyway, all right, being no further business, I would like to adjourn the meeting if that is okay with everybody. So thank you, everybody, for your participation, commissioners, for your hard work. I know there was a lot of stuff to read and get through. And thank you to staff, as always, for all your work. And thank you again.